All right, so folks, so today we will discuss about data center and cloud computing. So I'll be asking you questions and please feel free to answer because all of us here using data center and cloud computing and we will continue to use it for many more years. Okay, we never know how long technology will go on. Usually every technology has a life cycle, but many technologies continue for very long time. I mean, like radio engineering is continuing for very long time and it's changing its shape. It's coming in a new form but still continues, right? Because mobile phones is based on radio technology. Similarly, data center internet has evolved in last 30 years and is becoming going great, right? It will continue. Similarly, data center and cloud computing are not very old, just 15-20 years back. Development is started, but it has become part of our, what do you call that, daily computing needs are being met by data center and cloud computing. Okay, so we'll discuss in brief the following topics. We'll see how this computers has evolved into a data center and cloud computing. And we'll come to the definition of data center and cloud computing. Okay, and then we'll see what goes inside the data center. And please feel free to ask me any question because this talk is very abstract level, top level, right? We are not going into get to designs of any one of these, right? All right. So we know that computers has evolved over last, you know, 60-70 years. And this, the computer that you see here is a mainframe. And I was fortunate to be born in around the same time in 60s and could until 80s we could see mainframes, and in fact I have used one mainframe. And this the mainframe that you see here in this diagram is less powerful than a mobile that you have in your pocket. Okay, and the cost of such systems were about 1 million, and these were most powerful computers that existed that time. These were all isolated and users were using these, right, for computing needs. Okay, and note the cost was over 1 million. So, of course, very few computers were there in any country at that point in time. And then, in another 20 years, technology moved to mini computers. Okay, 1970s, and like Digital, HP, etc., created their own mini computers. And so, this was one such mini computer and cost all over $10,000. It's quite high. Okay, and again, the capability of this may be even lesser than that of a mobile phone. And then this was the era when uh, Microsoft came into picture. IBM has come out with a design, PC design, which is personal computer design, and made it available to all. And Microsoft developed uh, DOS operating system on that and became very popular. Now, at this time, people started thinking of buying desktop for their home or PCs for their home. Okay, and still the cost was $1,000. In fact, I bought my first PC in 1992. It costed me my 5 months salary. Oh, it was expensive. Okay, uh, and then after this we see the era of mobile computing or personal mobile devices. It means that now devices which are very powerful, but at the same time they are personal and mobile. Okay, and the cost reduced to, say, when Apple introduced a Nokia first phones came, it was around $500. Today, same capability phones you can get it for less than say $100, 5,000 rupees almost. In fact, less than 5,000 rupees you can buy very powerful mobile phone today. Okay, and then is the era of cloud computing and data center, which we also call as warehouse scale computers. Okay, and the cost note has gone up here because is now $200 million, right, for for a data center. Okay. Now the question I'm asking you, because all of you have used cloud and cloud in particular, what do you think is cloud and what is the need for you and how you are using cloud? Anyone?
So
Yeah.
cloud
So
is
as
like,
a storage, like
Okay. Cloud is like a storage file. So what
so
are
I
you?
think
Go
cloud
ahead.
is uh, like if everyone wants to use a supercomputer,
Yes. Okay.
so they are giving supercomputers for just for using, instead of buying, we can just use their supercomputer.
Yes. Very right. Both are right. What else? What else? So which application you use? Which is a cloud application?
so storage.
Google storage we use, right? Yeah. What else?
Yes.
What other application?
Sir, also in companies we use virtual machine. Basically, I mean, we can, instead of connecting everything to different computer, we can connect it to single cloud and then
Okay.
work from
Very
there.
good. So cloud gives you computing resources, whatever it be, a virtual machine or whatever, on demand, right? Whenever you want, it's available to you. Fine. Anything, any other application that you use, all of us use that application, which is running on cloud.
So Google search.
Yes, Google search. May each Google query that you put into result in thousands of searches inside. Okay. I mean, the whole technology is based on cloud in some sense, or because suppose you search something like IIT Goa. Okay, all the documents in the world that has IIT Goa or news related to IIT Goa would have already been available in data center, because searches don't happen at that point in time at different computers, right? So some software is written which kind of crawler, and then crawls all over, that keeps continuously crawling, keeps collecting information about whatever almost everything, and keeps storing them or presenting them or keeping them in a particular way such that when you fire a query it can be answered, right? So it's a massively compute intensive work. When simple query can result into use of sometimes thousands of computer at any point in time. Okay? So it's a massive, so it requires a lot of resources. What else, where else we are using the cloud? See, everything that we see today, say for example, Google Documents, Google Gmail, Netflix. See, Netflix cannot have a single server which can meet demands of millions of users. See, this was a dream application about 30 years back, the video on demand. When I was of your age, we used to have one movies, etc., on television at fixed timings. On Doordarshan, movie will come, and then this time is 6 to 9 on Wednesday or something like that. That's it. We couldn't even imagine to have, that we can watch any movie at any time in that we want anywhere in the world. Okay, or on any device. This was just unimaginable. And even in 97, when I joined a company, huge software system. Me and both Ashish were in the same company, and in one of the all hands meet, somebody asked this question: "What is going to be next application, futuristic application that will generate money?" So most of us answered that video on demand. Okay, now that video on demand is available. Uh, See, Netflix happens. Everything that we download or we see or is streamed is happening. I mean, it's there on cloud, or is cloud in some sense gives you an interface through which you can get your computing or whatever presented in the form of zeros and ones. That makes sense, right? So you can get music, you can get text documents, you can get any form in which digital information can be presented, right? Okay, or answer of your queries, etc. All right, so all of you have answered correctly, but let's look into it, what exactly it is, what it constitutes of, right? And so clouds give us an interface which we can think is infinite resources available to us on demand what we want. It's basically an interface, or it's a virtual world given to us, right? It's a service oriented world. Okay, when we say cloud, we normally don't think of number of computers are there, they are interconnected using Ethernet or something like that. We simply say Gmail as a service available to me, or even Zoom that we are doing today is only interface available to us, right? And all this thing is happening somewhere. There a lot of computing happens, right? Even to have a session like this, and it usually doesn't happen on a Zoom company's office. It happens in the back end onto thousands of servers, and that happens into a data center or cloud. Okay, so we'll look into some of these. So the question is that okay, and then we have something called data center, which is actually a hardware view or actual machine view of the facility that provides cloud. Okay, for example, there can be about about 100,000 servers or 1 lakh servers interconnected in a building and doing the activities that you want it to do, right? If you are a maybe you can rent part of that or some of them, or they may be running some services, etc., right? This is a huge, usually data centers are huge facilities where very large number of computers are there. Any question? Okay, let's move ahead, right? So question is that why data center in cloud? What was the need? We could have done this job with extremely powerful supercomputers. Can we do this job or cannot we do this job? That's the first thing to answer, right? What is the maximum powerful, most powerful processor available or computer available? Maybe some supercomputer which we don't care today. We don't know. I mean, some 20 years back there used to be Cray computers and so on. Today we don't know what is the most powerful computer. Okay, because whatever be the most powerful computer cannot meet the needs of even a search. Simple basic search that you do on Google cannot be met by one computer. Okay, and most powerful computer even. Okay, let's look at the reasons. First reason is that there is a data deluge. It means that this huge amount of data. See, 30 years back, 20 years back, there was no data collection. It was not happening, right? But today there are billions of users connected through internet, right? So internet is one force that has connected so many people, and there are a lot of applications like we have seen World Wide Web, Facebook, Twitter, cell phones, whatever, and huge number of applications. Okay, and then they all are generating data. Okay, okay. So what happens is that this data increase is very significant. For example, for Facebook, if you consider the history of Facebook, so then they'll say that if you look at the history, then 80% of that data generated last year, and rest of the years that's generated 20% of data. What it means that growth is very high. Okay, okay, and then in order to meet that kind of growth, Facebook has to build its own data center or cloud, right? And uh, like which is exabyte data center. And then we have seen in case of IoT, earlier we had a need only to meet the requirements of users, like my need of Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, all these applications. So, but now machines are using them, right? Because with new generation of internet, with IPv6 and IoT, your car will have 5 or 6 computers connected to everywhere in the world, and these data is also getting generated, right? And so, and all these things that's happening is being stored somewhere. Okay, it's not that all the data you are generating is lost, right? It's being stored. Okay, for example, even in this session, who have all have attended, how long they have attended, your their profiles, and all that communication is happening, everything is stored. So every click, every ad impression, billing event, server request, transactions, network message, what problems happened, all these things are getting recorded. Okay, all right. And user generated content is also growing on Twitter, YouTube, and various applications like TripAdvisor, etc., etc. So we can see the amount of data that grows is significantly more than that we can imagine. For example, we studied about Moore's law, the way computing is power is improving, right? So this shows the Moore's law. But just look at two applications. The This shows the growth, right? I mean, we in Moore's law we have seen the computer capacity, number of transistors doubles every 18 to 24 months, right? Or power of computer doubles every 18 to 24 months, considering the same amount of money you have to spend. But look at the amount of data being generated, the growth of data for two applications, just particle acceleration application and DNA sequence application is significantly more. It means that if you cannot even run or store the most powerful or application like DNA sequencer on single computer. Okay, it's many times more. All right. So that's one thing, that there is a huge amount of data is available, that is to be analyzed, that has to be stored, and that has to be utilized. Okay. Second is that, okay, we have applications that are highly compute demanding and memory demanding application, right? Say, and these application demand, not only computing power, high memory availability also. Most of the time application should remain available. For example, you want to order something on amazon.com, you don't, if amazon.com is down even for 10 minutes and you happen to order at that point time, you may not want it. Okay, and also low access time. When you access amazon.com, you don't want to wait for milliseconds, right? You just want a page to load immediately. Okay, and new applications like applications Gmail, Yahoo Mail, etc. These are all, they demand a lot of computing. Search we have already discussed. On demand video services like we have seen just now. I mean, what is it that any and from anywhere you can download movies, or you can watch and streaming movies or games, etc. Right? Netflix is one such example, or Google Play could be another. Google whatever, Amazon has, and many others, right? A lot of electronic transactions are happening, right? Social networking. You think the Twitter or Facebook can be done on one server or maybe 4 or 5 machines? No, it requires hundred thousands of servers for computing needs, right? Because so many people are continuously using and sharing and so on, right? When if most of us are using Facebook, what happens on a Facebook, right? Everybody who is liking your content or commenting or related to you, all these are information are collected at every point in time when you're seeing and loaded to you in a meaningful manner, right? And it requires huge amount of computing. Not only documents are to be collected, informations to be collected, but also be processed and presented to you in particular way. And millions of new data and compute hungry applications are coming every day. You can see new set of new applications are coming in, right? Okay, that's one thing, that you have applications that demand huge amount of computing and memory. Next thing is that, see, again, this example is similar to buying a car versus renting a car. Okay, because you don't use car for all the time, for 24/7, use it. I mean, just utilization of car in average home in India possibly is not 1 hour a day, even less than that. Okay, but why a car? To buy a car and keep it to yourself, right? The efficiency is very low, utilization is very low. Okay, so similarly, suppose I'm doing an event, hackathon, etc., and I want 10,000 computers to be available to me only for 1 hour in the morning. Okay, what I would have done? So I'm otherwise, right? I would have to buy so many computers, and buying has its own time, then installation has time, maintenance time, making it available for event. So all this requires huge manpower and cost, and after use of 1 hour is all waste. Okay, so why can't I demand say 1000 computers for just 1 hour? Okay, it's available to me at very very low cost. Okay, so I can have now this kind of requirement that I want computing services only, or computing infrastructure only for say just 1 hour or 1 minute and so on, like I mean Amazon AWS website, right? Or Amazon services provides you that. Okay. So today you can demand thousands of computer for a very short time. Okay, now so extension of that is that earlier every company, when you start even a startup, you first thing you need to do is to buy laptops and buy servers. When I started this company, where I worked in 2011, first thing I did is hired some people, and for them there has to be a couple of servers and laptops. That's the minimum thing that I needed, right? Okay, and then for in order to connect to server, there has to be Ethernet and all this blah blah blah, and some software for that. Today I don't need. Today when I start my company, then I just give laptop to people and let them connect to cloud, and I will provide them computing servers if required on cloud, and that too whenever they want, it should be available. And so my cost will be very low. So today people are not going. Most of the companies are not going for their own infrastructure because it costs them money. So not only buying, but maintenance and then manpower costs, etc., is huge. Okay, so I can just simply rent the servers from Amazon, or maybe from HP or Microsoft on demand, whatever I want. So this will reduce my infrastructure cost, human cost, and maintenance support cost. Okay, any question? All right, so let's move fast. So now our needs are see, for one thing we have noticed in Moore's law is that computers are not getting any more faster, right? We have almost reached the limit. Only thing is, instead of one processor in a chip, we have multiple processors now. That's all. So but our computing needs are growing exponentially. Okay, uh, each new application, even for example your name search on Google or streaming of a movie requires billions of CPU cycles or CPU capacity, right? And huge amount of memory. And then we have on-demand computing model, right? So this is not possible to be solved by just one powerful computer or multiple powerful computers, right? So solution adopted is that we have to go for massively parallel system, something that's shown here. Okay, and when we connect to that, we can demand whatever we want. Okay, so this is something, the picture shown here is nothing but data center, and it provides us cloud computing capability. All right, so now is we know that one is machine cannot solve our problems, so we have to now distribute data over cluster of cheap machines. Note that the machines that data centers are using are not very expensive machines like the laptop you are using. These are just bare machines, right? They don't have monitors, and they don't have, oh I'm sorry, Yeah. Can you just mute yourself because some people are talking? Okay. All right. Okay. So we have now, we are in the cloud data center. We use lots of cheap machines, right? These are, so, Amazon, for example, may not buy these machines from, say from some of big names, right? Apple or HP and all that. Or even if they buy, they have a big contract to supply these at very low cost. So they put, hundred thousands of these cheaper machines, cheaper but powerful machines, right? Interconnect them in such a way that it can meet the demands of computing and storage. Similarly, there's, 10 thousands of hard disk drives and RAM, random access memory, right? So these are organized in a very particular way. These are interconnected in a way that it can be shared among users, and a lot of applications can be hosted. So the cloud computing, now note that cloud computing gives you a service view. It gives the illusion of infinite resources. Okay. And then we can get them on, on demand for very short term. Like we have seen, we want 1000 computers for an event for very short term. Okay, it's surely very less expensive than owning computers, because it's like buying a car versus renting Ola whenever you want. Okay, and then it provides access to latest technology, because they always use the latest technology that's happening in the world. Okay, so now we use cloud computing primarily for low cost. If you own anything, if you try to create, your own server farm or have a small data center yourself, it's very expensive. So this is what we've shown you as 5 to 7 times expensive, but actually it's more than that, significantly more than that. Okay, and it's possible to internet, because see, if data center is there or cloud is there, and if we don't have internet which is fast enough and cheap, then we'll never use it. But unfortunately, what has happened is the bandwidth cost has reduced significantly, and internet has become so pervasive that anybody or everyone can use internet. And then we can connect to internet, to a data center or cloud, and get our work done. Okay. And of course, because of low cost of hardware and software, we can see that if that wouldn't have been possible, then cloud wouldn't have been possible too. Okay, so advantage of cloud is that shared platform with illusions of isolation. See, what happens is that these machines there are shared among number of users. Like, something that's happening for me in Google is also happening. The similar servers may also be serving you. Okay, while we always think that something that's available to me is always dedicated, separate, right? But that's not so. It's like, renting Ola for some time, then that point you think that whole service or the car is available to you forever, right? Or because whenever you have need, if something is provided to you, then you will think that. But in fact, it's being shared by multiple users, right? Okay, so there are multiple tenants are there. Okay, and and that is through exploitation of virtual machine hypervisors. So we'll not go into a virtual machine hypervisor now. Okay, and there is a attraction of low cost cycles, because everything that's built there or that in data center is built from very cheap and powerful hardware. So in general, the cost of each computing cycle is very low. Okay, all right. And of course, elastic service, is service on demand. Today you want 10 servers, you will get 10 servers. Tomorrow you want 200 servers, you will get 200 servers. Day after tomorrow you want 50 servers, you can request for 50 servers, right? So you can change your requirements. Okay, so and you pay for what you need. All right, all right. Okay, so now let's look at what exactly is data center? What is the cloud? Data center refers to hardware, software, and infrastructure. Note the word infrastructure. Consists of thousands of network servers. This compute, storage, and networking element. Basically, if you look at a data center or any, even any what do you call a lab, etc., it has three main components. Basically, compute machine, or basic processors, and then there is storage like disk, etc., and then interconnection of that through network. Okay, so what we can see is data center we can view as a large warehouse scale computer, or WSC. We don't see this as thousands of computers, or 10, or 100,000 computers sitting close to each other, interconnect in particular. We don't do that. We just can visualize this as a very large computer available to us. Okay, all right. And cloud, or cloud service, is a virtual version of data center. All right. So we have this, I mean, as a user, you don't see the data center. You have this virtual interface available to you, right? And where you can visualize, like most of us have right now, until data center, you have some concept of cloud. This exactly the same thing here is this view, that's virtual version of the data center of infinite resources. Whenever I want is available, it can run my applications, and applications are hosted there. All these views are available to me, and that we call as cloud. All right. So data center are very massive in nature. It has 1,000 to 10,000 servers. In fact, biggest data center might have more than 100,000 servers today, and they are interconnected together for low cost. Um, and then of course there is one thing that's very important. We'll study later is power consumption. Uh, and these are generally homogeneous machine, basically processors of similar kind, networking equipment of similar kind, and so on, right? It gives us gigantic machine view, WSC, that we studied, and it can support very large number of applications, and it's very highly available. Now, one thing that's very much required for data center is that it has to be designed in such a way that downtime is very, very less. Okay. Now, when we say downtime is 1 hour downtime every year, this is very, very large number, right? Even, and that's not for the whole data center being down for 1 hour, maybe different machines being down at different point in time, and so on, right? So very high reliability. Because, suppose Amazon.com fails for some time, the amount of loss they will make is in millions, and then they will charge these companies for that kind of losses, right? So data centers cannot afford to be down for very, very long time. It has to be made fault tolerant and self-healing network kind. Okay, all right. Any question? Okay, so it's designed for parallelism, because most of our application that we have, even for example search, requires huge amount of parallelism. It means the multiple subtasks of my task should run parallelly. Availability of high fault tolerance, that we already studied. Dynamic management, if one data center is loaded, or part of data center is loaded, work should migrate to part of the data center or to the machines which are relatively free, and without user being noticing it. Okay, for example, I am running my task, and my task is running in the data center in, say, New Delhi, and then there is that data center gets heavily loaded, or networks gets heavily congested. Then data center might move my task to a data center in New York without even me knowing about it. Okay, so it means the workload management keeps happening here, and then it can scale up and scale down gracefully in response to varying demands. So this we call as elasticity has to be there. Okay, and of course multi-tenancy, we have already discussed that multiple independent user or user applications can share the same infrastructure. So proper protection must be provided in some way or other, right? So there is a security and resource isolation must be there. Okay. So we can have data centers which are specialized data center for particular application. For example, Facebook has its own data center, Google has its own data center, Bing has its own data center, and so on. And then there are data center which ordinary people like us or very small company or a startup can use, like for example Amazon EC2, Windows Azure, or Google App Engine. These are data center created by these companies which they rent, and facilities of that or whether is infrastructure, like you may want few server capacities there, or you may want some application there, all that can be rented out to you, right? It's a kind of rental service available to anyone who can pay, right? All right, so we have dedicated server data centers and cloud data centers. Okay. And we can see that cloud services are of following type. uh, okay, we first is software as a service. For example, you have Google Docs, right? Google Docs are available to you. This is an application. You don't need to bring application to your desktop or laptop, right? You don't run there. These applications are running in data center and providing you data. Okay, compare this with a Word document that you are opening on your laptop versus Google Doc that you are using on cloud. Okay, so these services are hosted or applications are hosted and you are renting those applications, like Zoom, for example. Zoom, all the computation for Zoom is happening on data center. We are just using Zoom as a service, software as a service. So instead of that, we can also have platform as a service, which is PaaS, which is nothing but we are taking the whole platform on which we are running the application. For example, we may be you know uh, this Hadoop as an application is as a platform available to us, and on that we can run, develop something or run something, right? Okay, so these are the platforms available to us. Okay, and at the bottom we have infrastructure as a service where we can buy computers, or not really buy but rent computers or memory, or some connected number of computers, okay, in the form of virtual machines, etc., right? So these are three levels: software as a service, or where applications you can rent; platform as a service, where specific you are given a platform on which you can develop or run your applications. Okay, and third is of course infrastructure as a service, where you can uh, rent compute or networking or storage resources, and all these are implemented over data center, or basic servers and interconnection between them. Okay, so let's look briefly into what goes inside a data center. Okay, this is a data center which has more than 100,000 servers. This is the top view. Okay, these are data center for Google, data center of Facebook, etc. This is Google's data center, uh, the one that's shown here. Okay, and we can, so if you look at one of these, sorry, one of these buildings here, then if blow it up, then it looks something like this. Okay, further blow it up, it looks something like this. Go inside, it will look something like this, where hundreds of thousands of processors are there, right? And we can see there are racks like this. This is a rack, and within a rack there is a computer here. There is a one computer, second computer, third computer, fourth computer, and so on. All right, and they are all interconnected through wires here or cables, and is a switch on top. Okay, so these are the cables that runs on top of these racks. So on top their cables run something like this to interconnect. Okay, and this is one view, of course, at the how interconnection actually happens is look at the, sometimes it's so ugly as this. And these are normally containers. Okay, so it's a structure in a way that there are air conditioned containers, and containers we have racks, and on racks we have processors, right? So it's something like this. So servers are organized into racks. So this is a rack like your bookshelf, etc. And these are very specific size, some 40U or something, I don't remember it correctly. And then you push a computer blade inside, or a computer inside, right, which has everything like even hard disk and so on. Okay, and these are all homogeneous. Each rack will have processor or computers of the same type. Okay, and at the top we have a top of rack switch, which we call it TOR. Okay, because these processors or these computers need to be interconnected over a LAN. Okay, if you are connecting it over LAN, Ethernet LAN, there has to be Ethernet switch or some switch, right? And those Ethernet switches are to be interconnected, because there's not one rack but thousands of rack. They must be interconnected in some way. So we have, this is one rack, this is second rack, third rack, and so on. And computers in the rack are interconnected, and there is a switch on top. Okay, so these are the rack, these are the switches in the, sorry, computers on the rack. They are interconnected to a switch here on top. You can see switch here, and they are in turn interconnected to aggregate switch or total switch. So this is another view. Now instead of having switch in the top, on top we have switch in the center. Okay, so all these switches are in turn, you can see that, interconnected to central switch or cluster switch. Okay, so this is just one view. All right. Now this is again another view of server racks and array. Fine. This is how one simple server looks like. Okay, all right. And this is one architecture, right? So ultimately the logical architecture that we get out of is this, is that this is at one server level, just some simple one server that we have inserted in the rack. This is at the rack. What architecture looks like is something like this. And then is connected to data center switch, where many such racks are there interconnected, right? So this is a view. And you, as you go down, you can see the capacity goes up. DRAM becomes 30 terabyte, and uh, delay goes up then overall, because signal has to communicate at longer distances. Okay, any question up to this point? Any question?
Mm.
Okay, one important cost of all this is that, that of electricity cost, and significant part of electricity cost goes on cooling cost, because all this process generate enormous amount of heat. Okay, so the amount of electricity utilized there is very, very large. That's the reason data centers are preferred to be in the places which are basically cool. Okay, nobody would put data center in a desert where temperature goes into 40, 50, 60 degrees, right? So the design requires very efficient cooling, because heat generated is very high. And this shows distribution of cost, uh, amortized cost. Matlab, see, basically amount of money you have spent, and then you consider it yearly wise, right? So 57% is because of servers. Then next one is power cost, right? This one is 13% is power cost, and then power distribution and cooling cost is 18%. Okay, so consider these two electricity costs, which is for not only for power electricity but also for cooling, becomes almost like 25 to 30%. Okay, so it's very okay. All right, any question up to this point before we close? So what we have discussed is that in a sense is that our computing needs are becoming very, very high. Okay, similarly, our data storage needs are becoming very high. Imagine each one of us how much amount of data we have stored over cloud, right? For example, Google Photo. I have more than 5,000 photos on, Google Photo, right? But Google in turn is spending money to save my photos, and it's available to me without me worrying that it will be lost, or what happens, the hard disk becomes faulty and so on. Google is taking care of. They are making multiple copies of my data and putting it some places I don't care about it. All I want is that what I have kept should remain there as long as I want. Okay, so all, see, this is one simple user's requirement of 3,000 to 5,000 photos, and then documents and other stuff, and then we are continuously watching movies and so on, so and doing all kinds of processing. All this requires huge amount of computing and also storage, and any machine today cannot satisfy our growing demands. And that's only possible through when we put thousands of ten thousands of interconnected computers that can do our task, and also ten thousands of storage devices and RAMs in interconnected using very high speed network in very efficient way, such that if I throw a query, if I give a query, the answer should be available in a very short period of time, right? So it requires not only computation time should be less, but also communication time also to be less, right? So everything has to be tailored then, to meet users requirement. And then the way these data center are networked, actually networking required for data center is very, very different from the data center networking that we see in outside world. Okay, um, so these are very specialized area of research and so on. And how Google does it, nobody knows. It's a lot of proprietary thing happens there, because this is their unique selling point. All right, so data centers can meet the demand that we have, computing and storage demands, and then it presents to us an interface that we view as a cloud. It's any service that we want is available on demand, or any resource, computing resource in from virtual machine or storage, all that is available to us using one single interface. I don't care what happens inside. I know how to put my photos into Google Photo, and that's all, my job is done, right? And that all is provided by data center and cloud. Okay, so let's and next 5 minutes, let's see how cloud can help us in digital transformation. Any thought?
So since it provide, I mean, we can get very cheap computation using cloud. I mean, cost efficiency.
Yes, yes. Uh, yeah, so it helps. I mean, we can rent, or we can on backend things can happen automatically, but we can, anyone can interface as long as internet is there. Then we can use cloud. Each one of us can use cloud. Machines can directly use clouds. For example, the processors in my car, which is doing diagnostics, can communicate, and the results have to be stored somewhere. Okay, and it can connect to internet. Through internet, can download all the data onto the cloud. Okay, or real-time response is required, then some computation may requires huge amount of calculations. Those calculation can happen over data center or over cloud, and results can be sent back. For example, in self-driving cars, there may be about 50-60 sensors. Okay, each sensor is continuously generating data. The self-driving car processor surely may not have enough capability to do all calculations that are required. So these calculation, these data may be sent in some form or other to backend in the cloud. Okay, and that computation can happen there, and results can be given back to the car, and it has to happen in real time within whatever time limit. Okay, what else? See, it allows us to design and develop any kind of application which requires huge amount of computing resources or memory. Okay, what we see today is just few million applications. This number of applications can become 10 times in 5 years. All these have to be supported over cloud. Okay, so IoT is supported over cloud. Digital needs of users are supported of cloud. Disaster recovery can happen over cloud. Uh, so it helps us in many ways, right? All so digital transform involves finding new business models, and firms must continuously innovate to stay in the game. As business begin to adopt their processes to digital space, they require cost, work, and efficiency, elasticity, agility, and scalability. Okay, about their computing needs and so on, and that can only be provided by cloud. Okay, so cloud enables agility. Okay, because now businesses can continuously change their business model. Okay, and come out with better solutions, and then they can use cloud flexibility that's available uh, to users, and they can experiment with new ideas at very low cost and very fast prototyping. Of course, low cost is one reason. Flexibility, you may application or companies etc may demand resources on demand, and any kind of platform or applications that may need without actually investing into it. It just rent it out, right? And it's highly secure. When you have your own facility, then you have to think of security. And security becomes very important, because not only viruses etc, but anybody, any person with malicious intent can get into uh, your system and destroy everything, or steal data etc, right? So cloud computing provides virtual interface to infinite computing resources on demand. Okay, like IoT device, it could be anywhere and can connect to cloud. Okay, so you can start your company and just work on cloud. You don't need to hire anything. You need to buy anything. So with minimum investment, you can create your office, and highly compute intensive applications can be supported and so on. So there are thousands of reasons to use cloud today, because it provides computation on demand, computing on demand, storage on demand, whenever you want, at very low cost. uh, how much you want, you can increase and decrease your requirements every few minutes etc. All these models are possible using cloud and data center. All right, so this is the last slide, which gives overall view, right? Cloud is being used by almost everyone to interface with all kinds of things. Enterprises, it can provide enterprise services to enterprises, like it can give a company, for example, I am running a company, I may have my own cloud, which I would have created using my own servers. Then I can extend this cloud to public cloud and create my personal cloud out there. So I can create my personal data center or personal cloud by taking services from public cloud. Okay, and then almost every device that we have today, like laptops or mobiles, or other devices like servers, or some other devices, all are being now connected to cloud. For accessing clouds, services in terms of computing and communication, or some applications that are hosted there, right? For example, you watch a movie on your mobile. Okay, most of the things, including knowing that what mobile you are having and rendering onto your mobile screen, all that computation is happening in the backend in the cloud, right? Okay, so the devices may have very limited capability, yet devices have power to do run an application or do computation which requires huge amount of computing power and storage. All right. Okay, any question? All right then, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, bye bye.
Thank you.